For all intents and purposes, the following recordings are fictional. If it wasn't, Gregory would be in a lot of trouble with the council. This is a real American wizard in a hypothetical wizarding world. Now let's turn our seeing stones and scry upon the orb.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful wizard, the wonderful wizard. Say, cut it up, whiz, cut it up. Say, cut it up, whiz.
Gollum tried to ask me out. I said no, wait. Your phantoms want to see me and they can't hear me. Your queen wants to court me and she can't even see me. Hi, welcome back to the Magic Orb. I am Gregory the Sorcerer, the only podcast for wizards, by wizards, for magic users, by magic users. Thank you for tuning into your orb, looking at your scrying stones, looking at your seeing pools. It's great to be back in the tower talking to all of you. I have had a bit of a rough week. A part of my wizard's tower fell down. So I did have to have an influx of unseen servants and skeletons helping me move those huge flagstones, right? They're made out of granite, right? I wanted granite to make my mage tower, and the only drawback of that is that they do weigh 15 tons each block. Takes a lot of femurs, takes a lot of tibias if you're using skeletons to lift up that many tons of stone. So, I reacquired quite a few bodies from some graveyards this past week, but life goes on when you get into a duel with a rock monster and you're usually using fireball. It takes a while to melt him down, and that is, the risk that you have to take when you become such an all-powerful wizard. I want to clear something up, just so we're clear. The who I refer to as the Phantom, the last Magic Orb cast, that's they were not happy that I called them a phantom. I want to make clear, I'm not seeing a phantom. I am seeing an ethereal goddess, which is what they like to be called, and that is what they are. And if you say anything about me seeing a phantom, you'll get a scroll of fireball that'll explode the moment your hand touches it, okay? Don't ever say I was seeing a phantom. I'm never seeing a phantom. I'm seeing an ethereal goddess. And we did finish the tale of Frodo Baggins. Big surprise when Frodo survives. Huge surprise. We all know that Tolkien took extensive notes, right? And so, that's one of the few, non-magic stories that's actually just a historical text. Crazy. Frodo survives. We all knew Sam was going to survive because he's pure of heart and one of the best beings on the planet. I think he did die, but I think Eru Ilúvatar did offer Samwise Gamgee to become immortalized or become a Maiar, and he turned it down. He said, "I want to be with my Rosie." Terrible Samwise Gamgee impression, but the real question is, does Frodo wear wigs? Does Frodo wear wigs? Because if you read, the ancient Elvish versions of the Silmarillion, it says that Frodo was bald. So, maybe he wore wigs, right? I know in most other retellings, he has this really curly hair, like all hobbits do, real curly hair. But maybe he wore wigs. Maybe Frodo wore wigs. But that's enough for me. Let's get to the questions This first question is from Gregoth. Shouts out Gregoth. What regulatory bodies do you report to? I don't know, man. That's why I'm in North America, and that's why I'm a wizard, right? You do still have to report to the non-magic IRS. Luckily, my tower is in kind of an invisible place, so the only thing I have to pay is property tax, right? I don't have to, I don't have to like pay on income or anything. I just, oh, it's all self-sustaining, right? I'm just on this small plot of land. But having to get the cash to give the IRS, you have to go into a mail place to get a stamp, because I don't know how to portal, right? They have these they're like little boxes made out of paper, but they're thin, right? On envelopes, they envelop the paper with another paper. Isn't that weird? Why wouldn't you just send the paper? You gotta have papers to wrap papers, and then you send it across the continent, because let's be clear, it's a continent. You gotta send that to them. I should move a couple hours north, right? I don't know what that governing body, but I know it's not the IRS. I would like to not have to deal with them. Every wizard does have to register with the council. I mean, I don't report to them. They just know I exist, right? They know if I have had any duels recently. But you don't report to anyone as a wizard. You just pay your property taxes, and you tell the council that you're not revealing the secrets of magic to all non-magic people. And then you're good. Then you don't have to report to anyone else. That's the magic of being a wizard. Now, if you are in the UK, they got an entire wizard government. That sucks. I'm pretty sure a lot of the EU has that. I think Bulgaria has that. I'm not sure if France does. They might have a kingdom kind of relationship. But, it depends on your continent, and it depends on, how well you can hide your wizard tower and how good you are at keeping a secret. Are you a snitch about magic? If you're not a snitch about magic and you can hide your tower really well, you don't report to nobody, buddy. Next question is from Bibbles the Magician. That does sound like a magician, like a non-magical magician. That sounds like you do card tricks and maybe saw a lady in half. I saw ladies in half all the time. I saw them with my eyes. Anyway, what does it feel like to be unsuccessful at magic? I might ask you, Bibbles the Magician. Are you doing magic comedy in front of people? I enjoy sometimes going to a non-magic comedy club and listening. I don't really get the premises. I don't really get what's going on, but they're fun talkers the way they talk. And sometimes you'll go to one and there is a comedy magician, but like they're first starting out. That's one of the roughest things to watch in the world. That's really a starting out comedy magician. They're pretty good when they're really good, and when they're bad, like I went to a show and this comedy magician came up to me and he kept pulling out like, is this your card? But they were all just like queens of hearts, and he just kept saying like, your mom, huh? And I nearly revealed my wizardry to an entire crowd of non-magic users. I almost cast fireball on this dude. Like, my mom is not the queen of hearts. She's the queen of spades. Far more powerful. Like, what does he not get about that? One time I saw this magician, and I really thought he was casting fireball. I really thought, but it turns out that he just had propane tanks in his jacket, and And I was like, that's almost as powerful as my fireball. Mine also melts titanium, so it's not as strong, but it was as big as mine. I was like, man, some of these non-magic people are doing the work of magic people, and I'm starting to get a little scared for my job security. Luckily, none of those magicians can be convincing when shuffling cards, right? You ever see a magician shuffling cards and you're like, I don't like that your main point is to trick me. Here's the thing about magicians and mages and sorcerers. Here's the difference between a wizard and a magician. Wizard doesn't trick you. He just does the magic, right? If he says, "Is this your card?" He got it in one, right? He just cast divination, picked it out of the deck, showed it to you. He knew which one it was, not because he put it in there a different way. Nah, spell, blood dow. That's it, right? Here's the thing about me. I could make a killing as a street magician because I could just hand you a deck of cards, say, pick out a random order, right? Pick out a random order. And then I just cast Seeing Through Thy Eyes, right? The spell, Seeing Through Thy Eyes. And I would see the order and I would tell you the exact order. 52 cards plus 2 jokers. I could tell you the exact order that someone put it in. And I didn't have to break a sweat. All it took was the wing of a fly. That's all it takes for like a trivial casting on a non-magic person. So also, sure, that's magic, but you know what's more magic than that? Casting fireball. So what does it feel like to be unsuccessful at magic? Let me get back to the question. I started roasting Bibbles without answering the question. What does it feel like to be unsuccessful at magic? It feels a little bit like indigestion. It feels a little like it. If you're doing a really big spell, feels like death, right? Because you die. If you're doing a ritual that's like really complicated, then it'll cause immediate death. It really depends on the spell that you're casting, right? Sometimes it can make, if you're doing a spell that impacts someone else, you do it wrong, you're unsuccessful at that, it'll turn itself inward on you. If you're trying to cast poison or like a poison cloud on someone, now you're inhaling a bunch of poison cloud. You better have an antidote on hand. But also, right, like I kind of take pride in my craft. I try to be a very good wizard, and when I'm unsuccessful at magic, it really makes me feel like I sold away my family and gave away my childhood to my archmage for no reason at all. And like, I'm not immune to those thoughts, right? Like everybody has thoughts. If you're working on something and you need the motivation to keep working at it, if you're studying to get into the Wizards College, you can do it. I believe in you. Unless you're bad, then give up. This question is from Gargolomew. Gargolomew. That's good. Gargolomew. Okay, that's a name. This question is from Gargolomew. Shouts out Gargolomew. Have you ever made a grimoire? Dog, at the point with the amount of questions that we start to answer in the Magic Orb cast, I'm going to be able to sew up these papers and make my own grimoire out of your questions. And then you could probably buy that for 100 gold. And, you'll have your own question. Anyway, have I ever made a grimoire? No. It seems pretty difficult. I'm adept at making staffs, right? I'm adept at conjuring the dead. But a grimoire seems like the next thing that I should do. Imagine me, I got a big old grimoire on my lap. Oh, and I can just like touch a couple sentences. Man, some really complicated spells you can do with grimoires. That's what's really cool about grimoires is like you can record all of this information, right? Like I have tomes, I have things that I can learn from, but grimoires, ooh, especially with the amount of necromancy I do, right? You can do a lot of really complicated summonings of some really grotesque creatures. And that's really what I'm all about. I just don't love working with leather. That's the thing about when I summon some undead for whatever purposes I might have, I usually don't conjure zombies. I don't conjure undead with skin. There can be exposed flesh for sure, but not skin on it. Leather, yuck, man. Unless it's like treated like you have a leather skin hat and it still has like some fur on it, that's cool. But like, ugh. I've seen a hat made out of witch's skin. It was very powerful, but it cursed anyone who put it on their head. And it was disgusting. Just really gross. That's the thing with the grimoires. It has to be wrapped in leather. Could I do a pleather grimoire? Could I do that? Could I? Ooh, man. Ooh, I did see there were some people down south of here who were making leather, fake leather from cactuses. I'd have a cactus grimoire. That's cool. All your guys' pages. Maybe I'll bump up the price to 200 gold. But that's my answer to you, Gargolomew. Thank you. Thank you, Gargolomew. Next question. This question is from Rockbecca. Rockbecca, how many elements are there? Ooh, I'm going to say 8. I'm going to say 8. I know that that's tough for a lot of people. A lot of people are like, well, you know, there's the non-magic people have created a table of elements that has like 600. And I'm like, that's a lot to memorize. And then you got like, you know, the benders, right? You've got element benders who are like, no, there's only 4. And which, like, even if you were to submit to like traditional bender ideology, which I do not, there is still 5. It's just no one else can really energy bend except for some of the most powerful people. You have to be really connected to the spiritual world, and I'm not familiar with spiritual magic. But also, like, there's more than 4 elements. There's more than 4, right? There's more, because, like, you know, metal, I'm pretty sure. I'll list out the 8. Metal, oil, water, fire, for sure, rock, wood, living plants. Plants is an element. I'm gonna go ahead and say fungus. Fungus is an element. And farts. Farts is the final element. We all know that. The best wizards are fart wizards. Now, are there subcategories within the 8 elements? Of course there are. Aluminum is a metal, right? That's one of the 8, right? Steel is a metal. Magic mushrooms, literal magic mushrooms, that's a fungi. Magic mushrooms are fungi. Now, oil, anything made out of plastic, that's its own element, right? Plastics are made out of oil, so it would make sense that you know, that falls into the same category. Air is air. it's not really an element, so that's why I left it out. And, you know, I'm just really knowledgeable about these things. Thank you, Rockbecca. You, Rockbecca, I'm assuming that you're a rock creature. You are an element. So give that up to yourself. This question is from Rudy A. the Reader. Shouts out Rudy A. Read any good books lately? Oh, I'm reading all the time. And it's not just the tomes that I've bought. It's not just the scrolls that I'm using to cast. But I enjoy reading for pleasure. I enjoy a story. I enjoy a novel. You can learn lots of things from different things. A lot of people would think that I would just read, you know, things about wizards and magic. But I personally do like to get lost in like things that don't have to deal with my day job, right? I'm a really big fan of Louis L'Amour books. I love a good Western books. Those are fun, mostly because they almost entirely avoid any kind of magic. It's just a dude, his gun, and he rides into town, and he has to save that town by the end of the book. Fantastic story every single time. Pick up A Man Called Noon and tell me you don't believe in the American West. Or you think that violence isn't that great. But great books. Great books. A lot of science fiction really tries to get around the fact of, right, it's future casting, but anyone who can use a little bit of divination can tell whether or not it's based on something kind of true or whether an alien has influenced the writing of that book. So sometimes when you read science fiction, it's tainted where it's like, that is like that, but you wouldn't do it in that way, right? Like you read the Dune books and it's like, sure, you can see the future with a specific kind of space dust, right? Which is the element rock, right? But you can see the future with that, but it doesn't turn you into a huge worm. And that's not the point. I understand that's not the point of the Dune books, right? I would never want to slander the great author Frank Herbert. It's just not for me, right? It's just not for me. Okay? He just got a lot of things right, except for that one weird thing. And it's like, I understand it's to prove, you know, that it's not good to have a jihad. It's not good to have, you know, a war based on that. But, you know, I just couldn't get into it. I did like the first one. The first one was pretty cool, right? You know, they like got this propaganda thing, and Dune's good books. Just, you know, I couldn't get into the rest of the series. You know what book I did read recently? You know what book I did read recently, which was a pretty tough read, was the first one I read was Getting to Yes, and the second one was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Both of those books, I was shocked because those are how do I put this? They're magic of the occult, and like it's phrased in a way that you know it's really geared towards business people. But no, they're casting occult spells on you when they repeat your name 13 times in a conversation. That's not because it like gets in your head because of some kind of psychology. No, they've cast an occult spell on you, right? How to win friends and influence. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That is a book of the devil, and not like the cool one. That's, man, I hate that book. Getting to Yes, even worse. Most people only read Getting to Yes after they've read How to Win Friends and Influence People. So it's just another way to cast occult spells on people to do things that they don't actually want to do, but they feel obligated to based on the occult spells that you've cast upon them. Salesmen are the worst, and don't listen to insurance salespeople. That's it, Rudier. So those are some strong opinions I have. Let's get to the next question. This question is from Bornt. Shouts out Bornt. Why do you go anywhere if you can cast Unseen Servant? I've had to cast it a lot in the past week. I've had to cast Unseen Servant a lot in the past week. But Born, you got to realize there's more to life than sitting in a cave and reading books. You gotta realize there's more to life than, uncovering, dark energies about business books in the non-magical world, right? Life is about being lived, and it's about getting into a fight with a rock monster on a Wednesday night because you have imbibed some of the Longbottom leaf, okay? That's fun. It's a fun part of life. Should I be able to, have my unseen servant go out and get all my groceries? Yeah, of course I do that. But the question is, why would you go anywhere if you can cast Unseen Servant? Because I like to go places, dude. Go see the world. Go touch some grass, right? If you could have all your needs met for you without ever leaving the house, you should still leave the house. You should frolic and go back in and read another Louis L'Amour book after a while, but you got to get out. You can't just live in your cave. You have to move your body, right? Also, Unseen Servant, they never get the variety of apple that I want, right? Unseen Servants almost always pick up Fuji or Gala apples. I want Honeycrisp. I've always specified Honeycrisp. The one time my Unseen Servant brought me Red Delicious, I had him broken down into individual mana cells because that's disgusting. Unseen Servants, they're still servants who make mistakes. And hey, maybe I should forgive them here or there. But I made them with my own hands. And I will tear them apart with my own hands using the raw arcane energy that I have trained so hard to get. Also, sometimes a skeleton does better work than an Unseen Servant. So, you can always upgrade your Unseen Servants and try different kinds of spells. You can try and make an Unseen Servant do some combat. I know they're not made for that, but if you one day master Unseen Servant, don't limit yourself. Dream big. That's what I say to you, Born. Next question. This question is from Avarice. Shouts out Avarice. Where do you see yourself career-wise in 300 years? I don't love the premise of this question. I'm kind of chilling how I am now. I'm not looking I have my dream job. I'm a wizard in a wizard's tower. The only thing that will really get me going career-wise is a bigger wizard's tower or becoming a lich, aka continuing to be a wizard forever. I don't want a place on the council. That seems like a terrible job. Where do I see myself career-wise in 300 years? I don't know. Maybe getting to 4th level Fart Wizard. It's really hard to master. Avarice, you seem like kind of a business dude, and I have already stated how I feel about business dudes. in this current cast. Okay, I did tell Bornt to dream big. So let me step back from my antagonistic views against Avarice. Where do I see myself in 300 years career-wise? I'd like to get closer to the coast. If I could somehow secure a lighthouse, that's one of the best wizard towers you can get, and then build it even higher, right? I want the Space Needle on the water. I want a Space Needle on the water, and I want that to be my wizard's tower. I want it to stay. Maybe I could just teleport the Space Needle to Forks, Washington, to La Push, live out there. Hello, no vampires allowed. Blah. Volturi who? He would, man, every time I go out to Forks, Washington, I just stink like garlic for 2 weeks. And like, I love eating garlic, but like, I usually eat so much that it comes out of my pores, so I don't have to like carry a cross or anything to get rid of vampires. So like, I'm just eating garlic parms morning, noon, and then I'll have like a bite of elephant garlic and then garlic confit for dinner. Every time I want to go to Forks. It's one of the most beautiful oceans in the world. It's one of the most beautiful beaches, right? It looks like you could have a duel with any kind of knight on that beach, right? For like a castle nearby. But you have to deal with vampires every time. And those vampires from those non-magic books, this is what I was going to get to earlier about the books question. Most stories that involve magic have a little seed of truth in them, right? Some author either like found a drunk wizard and, you know, stole his whole story. That's what happened. That's what happened with Harry Potter. Harry Potter's a cool dude. The non-magic author stole this whole story from them, or right, like they had a secret revealed to them that they shouldn't have, and they decided to write a story about it. I don't know what happened with Stephenie Meyer, but she got some things dead on the money. The Sparkling, Carlisle, that's a real guy. I don't know about the rest of them. I've met him. He stayed about 40 feet away because I was actively peeing garlic water onto a tree near his house. He was not a fan of me. They're not cool. They're not nice when you pee garlic pee on a tree by their house. Where do I see myself as a career? So, yeah. Space Needle at La Push with a teleport, a permanent teleport station pretty close nearby. I really think that we need to start investing more in permanent teleport locations because there's only like 3 or 4 throughout the world. And I understand, right? Like a lot of that, you know, investment is going into interplanar teleportation, right? And that's cool and all until like I have to spend, you know, so much money, right? Like if I teleport to the east coast of the continent, right? If I teleport to Alaska, then I have to, you know, spend so much money on a short, you know, non-specific teleport, right? If I want to get from Washington to California, there's no permanent teleport spots, so I got to spend my own money instead of using a public permanent teleport spot. So, I don't know. Send a couple ravens to the council and see if they'll do anything to it. I will send it. Maybe if all of you send a couple ravens to the council and say, hey, we need permanent portals, maybe we can make some change together. Huh? All right. Next question. Hey, dude, ancient tomb. Next question. This question is from Glenn Tony. Shouts out Glenn Tony. It seems like ancient tombs have been opened more frequently, and a lot of different banks and investors are hiring more and more curse breakers. That's true. And it seems like these two things are connected. Yeah. Dude, how do you think we find more ancient artifacts? How do you think we unearth these ancient sources of power that we sealed up because they were too powerful? Hey, we're ready for that power now. Let's open them up, baby. I do have a rule, though. You do have to be descended from whoever's tomb that is, right? If you're from, if there's an ancient tomb in Saskatchewan, you should have some Saskatchewan family in you, or be old enough to predate Saskatchewan, right? So that's a couple things for me, right? I'm over 300, so, most of this area I can open a magic tomb of. Also, that's also why I started having a lot of people adopt me. If you want to adopt me, send me a raven, and then I've got parents. I've got parents in Mexico. I've got parents in Florida. I've got parents in Moldova, right? I've got parents in the Balkans. I've got parents, in New Zealand. Way better than Old Zealand, I should say, too. I'm so glad I got parents in New Zealand rather than Old Zealand. Oh, Old Zealand sucked, man. As soon as they brought it back out of the ocean, I hate ocean countries, right? I hate underwater countries. They're just like so much slower to move through. As soon as they brought it out of the ocean, made one of the most beautiful islands in the world, right? Maybe the plane. I don't know. But yeah, that's how a lot of these, I know the UK has a couple let's say colonial holdings in Egypt still. So I think it's Gringotts is the bank that they use, that they kind of have a monopoly over that area, which kind of sucks. But yeah, a lot more ancient tombs. A couple seals have gotten old enough that we can break them, which means we have to hire more curse breakers to deal with what happens after we break those seals. So yeah, it's a great living if you ever want to start being a curse breaker, right? Just go to your curse breaker union nearby and join it, right? Don't just go in and see if you can scalp a job. Go in, join the Curse Breaker Union, and see where they send you. They might send you all across the world. So that's what I would tell you, Glenn Tony. Glenn Tonio. This question is from Michael O. Okay, this next question is from Michael O'Nid. I get it, Myconid. That's funny. That's a name specific to this question. Okay, Myconid asks, is a Myconid spore servant? Is a Myconid spore servant an undead creature? Ooh. Now we're getting into fun magical theory. Okay. A Myconid spore servant. So, what happens is something dies, a dwarf, let's say a dwarf dies, a fungal creature takes over that dwarf's body, hijacks the brain, and uses magic to move all of its limbs. And so it's a mushroom, but that's a dead body that it's inhabiting. It is and it isn't, Myconid. That's what I'll tell you. It is and it isn't. Because the body will respond to anti-undead magic, right? If you cast Turn Undead, the body will run away, even though the thing controlling the body is not undead, right? You can do holy damage, which will damage the body of the undead myconid spore servant, but that fungal host, if it can extricate itself, can move to a new dead body, right? So is it undead? Functionally, yes. But technically, no. Technically, you're like wearing a flesh mech, right? It's a mech suit for a myconid spore. I wonder, is that you? Is that what you are? Have you like gained sentience and you're no longer a myconid spore servant? You're just a myconid spore creature? And you wrote in, if that is the case, shouts out, please don't inhabit my body one day. I don't plan on being dead unless I'm a lich. And we all know liches are exempt from becoming a myconid spore servant. Guys, I'm running low on my stock of Mountain Dew Pitch Black. And I can only use the duplicate spell on it so many times, right? Like every time that you duplicate it, it loses a certain amount of potency. And I don't want to end up drinking a watered down Mountain Dew Pitch Black, right? Like I've had the same flat of Mountain Dew Pitch Black since 2006. And I don't think it's going to last much longer. If you know a reliable source to get Mountain Dew Pitch Black so that I can duplicate it for another 20 years, please send me a raven, send me a message, and I will pay you upwards of 50 gold pieces for, as much as I can get from you. That's as much as I have in the budget for Mountain Dew Pitch Black. Really powerful reagent also for a really good precursor for a lot of good magical recipes, potions. It's a reagent for some spells, right? You take a swig and then you're able to cast shield a lot stronger. I love doing that. Some texts, some tomes will say that is just placebo. Placebo, more like placebo. No, it is magical. Mountain Dew Pitch Black is the most magical of the Mountain Dews, which is already a very magical drink. Okay? I know this. I've studied it. If you want to look at my notes, you can find it in the grimoire that I will put out one day. Okay? Sometimes I do get worried that like I haven't made as much progress as I wanted. I know I've talked about like wanting to get off of the elixir of life, off of, using an alchemist stone to, keep renewing my life every, 50 years, right? It's a steep cost. And like, maybe I worry if I had actually, tried to monetize the great majesty of the magical work I do, then I would be able to pay for it easier. But maybe that's not what my magical life is about. Maybe it's about getting into a duel with a rock creature and having to fix my tower for 3 days. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the point of life. Maybe the point of life is having an unseen servant get the correct apples for you. Avarice really bumped me out with that question. But I will say, things will get better. Get out of your house, Bornt, and read some Louis L'Amour. Try and shoot a non-magic projectile shooter. See your ethereal goddess. Cast Fireball. Have a good night.
Shadow Wizard Money Gang. We love casting spells. This song is sponsored by the Shadow Government. Legalize nuclear bombs.
Swag Messiah.